Welcome, everybody. We're glad you've taken the time to join us today for the World Habitat Day panel. We've placed everyone on mute and will begin in a few minutes to allow for others to arrive. Welcome, everyone. We're glad you've taken the time to join us today for the World Habitat Day panel. We placed everyone on mute and we'll begin in a few minutes to allow for others to arrive. In the meantime, take a few minutes to review this graphic created with data from the Urban Institute. This was part of today's inspiration.
Welcome, everyone. My name is Kristen City, and I am the CEO of Habitat for Humanity of Minnesota. Habitat for Humanity of Minnesota is an affiliate support organization that advances and advocates for the work of 25 Habitat affiliates in Minnesota. Our key services include lending and grant programs, training and technical assistance, and public policy and advocacy efforts at a state level. We recently completed a new 4-year strategic plan that is focused on increasing ownership opportunities in Minnesota. And we see the power and energy in convening leaders in our state to elevate affordable homeownership as the cornerstone to economic and household stability in our state, which is why we are thrilled so many of you have taken the time to join us today for our 2nd annual World Habitat Day panel discussion. We have a dynamic group of speakers today, and I'm looking forward to the dialogue. As we begin today, I want to take a moment to thank the Results Foundation for their volunteering and granting partnership this year. RE/MAX Results and the Results Foundation were honored to team up with Habitat for Humanity for a month of volunteering across 3 different Habitat build sites, St. Cloud, La Crosse, and the Twin Cities. Like Habitat, Results believes that thriving communities begin at home, and it's their mission to partner with local organizations on the ground who are helping to build the foundation for strong communities. They are proud to fund organizations working to increase the supply of quality and affordable homes, as well as programs that assist individuals on their pathway to sustainable homeownership. For their volunteer month, 65 volunteers came out for 8 days and over 421 hours of volunteering. And they're already looking forward to doing it all again next year. Thank you so much, RE/MAX Results Foundation, for your partnership. We're thankful for this partnership and other partners who invest in creating more opportunities for affordable ownership in our state. I want to share a few Zoom logistics before we dive into today's discussion. Live captioning is available. To turn it on, click closed caption to start viewing the captioning. We will be recording today's conversation and we'll be sharing it with everyone who registered for this event. We will be hosting a question and answer session later during the panel. So please submit any questions you have for the panelists that come up or come to mind throughout the discussion. We also invite you to vote for any questions you would especially like to hear answered by our speakers. Now, let's get to the wonderful discussion we have already today. World Habitat Day was launched more than 30 years ago by the United Nations to highlight the importance of this work, and we continue to see the role affordable, safe, stable housing plays in creating strong, thriving communities. And this is only emphasized during a global pandemic. Housing prices continue to rise and the nation wealth gap is increasing. Our work continues, and I'm thankful for the leaders joining us today to talk about their work and what we can do to move forward together in achieving this goal. In the spirit of our leaders working towards this goal, Senator Richard Draheim shared with us the following video, noting his commitment to this work that we'd like to share with you all.
Senator Rich Draheim here. I'm the chair of the Housing Committee in the Senate. Thanks for the invite to talk to you guys today, and thank Habitat for all their hard work this year, pushing home ownership. I think we both can agree how important a home is for everybody. And the pathway to home ownership is the great equalizer. And the 5 years I've been in the Senate, we have pushed and pushed and pushed for home ownership. We need to do a better job of getting more people on the pathway to home ownership. This last year, we did something that's never been done before. We pushed housing infrastructure bonds for home ownership. Hopefully this is just the beginning of a new path forward where we can get resources to groups across the state, like Habitat, so we have the resources to build new homes for people instead of rental. Rental's still important, but if we really want to have something that equalizes families, home ownership is the key. So thank you for caring, and thanks for the invite.
Thank you to Senator Draheim for his commitment to this work. Habitat Minnesota thanks all the elected officials championing affordable housing as a solution to the many needs our communities are facing today. Meeting the affordable housing needs in our state and advancing affordable ownership is a nonpartisan issue that needs everyone working together to make a difference. Habitat Minnesota is thankful to have partnership with leaders of all political persuasions and throughout our state agencies, working towards making the cost of home affordable for everyone in our communities. Speaking of state leaders, I'm thrilled that Emma Kasiga has agreed to moderate our panel discussion today. As a Habitat Minnesota Board of Directors member, she knows firsthand the importance of this work and why it matters. Additionally, she has experience working with housing counseling and homebuyer education programs and is now working at the Minnesota Department of Employment and Economic Development. I'll let her share why this issue is so important to her as she begins the panel discussion, but I'm thankful for her leadership and commitment to this mission. Please join me in welcoming Emma as we begin the discussion today.
Thank you, Kristen, for the warm welcome. It is a pleasure to be here. Throughout my career, I've had the opportunity to see firsthand the impact of affordable home ownership on families and communities. During my time at the African Development Center, we worked with countless families striving to own their first-time home. And now, while working at Minnesota Department of Employment and Economic Development, I know that stable, affordable housing is critical to our state's economic stability. We know that affordable housing, and specifically ownership housing, is the key component in building generational and community wealth and creating thriving communities that support strong economies. I'm looking forward to hearing from our panelists today about their work and what brings them to this conversation. So we're going to spend some time with each of our panelists, and I have some questions prepared. We're hoping that we'll have some time at the end of the audience for audience to ask some questions. So audience members, please know we will have some time for question and answers at the end of the session. Joining us today, we have 5 awesome leaders. Please welcome Stephanie Huff, Director of Communications at Ottertail Power Company, Abdirahim Hussein, Regional Manager for Central Minnesota at African Development Center, Allie Jones, Director of Homeownership Services at Southwest Minnesota Housing Partnership, Emily Larson, Mayor, City of Duluth, and Marisa Sosita, Executive Director at Red River Valley Habitat for Humanity. We'll begin the panel with each panelist taking a few minutes to introduce themselves and sharing a little bit about themselves and about their work. Panelists, please share with us a bit about yourselves, your organization, and what brought you or what motivated you to do this work. So I'm going to start with Stephanie Huff.
Hello, everyone, and happy Monday. What a privilege to be here with all of you. As you can see on the screen, I'm the Director of Communications for Ottertail Power Company. We are headquartered in Fergus Falls, Minnesota, but we serve approximately 70,000 square miles, which means parts of Minnesota, North Dakota, and South Dakota. What interested me in my work, I'll start on the communications front. My parents often tease me that communications was a good fit because I feel the need to know all things, and I feel the need to tell people all the things. So that's what brought me to the field of communications. Public relations is key to my role, however, and that serves us very well at Ottertail Power Company, where being a part of the communities that we serve, being active, being engaged, supporting development, all of the things that help to maintain vitality and viability in our very rural footprint are really important to our company and really important to me. So that really is what drew me to this role, and particularly the community engagement piece is what gave me the opportunity to serve with the rest of the panelists today.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. That was great. Now, I would like to invite Abdirahim Hussein to introduce himself. Abdirahim.
Hello, everybody. My name is Abdirahim Hussein. I'm a regional man. Thank you for having me first, all of you guys. It's happy Monday. My name is Abdirahim Hussein. I'm a regional manager for African Development Center in central Minnesota. I work with ADC last 5 years. We're working for home buyer process, home search classes, counseling one-on-one. We're helping for the community every single day. ADC, ADC is African Development Center, is educate the economic environment to succeed, helping for African immigrants and grow a business and wealthy to increase investment in African community of Minnesota. In ADC, we do a lot of stuff is for home buying, for help for the community every day. Because a lot of community people are moving to Minnesota day by day, coming from the refugee of Africa, moving to other states. Then ADC, we have a lot of potential energy. We help for the community, helping for the set up classes, trainings, home search classes. We do a lot of stuff every day. Thank you so much. I will answer all the questions you guys have later for the panels, and thank you again.
It's great to have ADC represented today on the panel and hear how the ADC work is advancing this issue. Now I'd like to welcome Allie Jones. Allie, go ahead.
Good afternoon, and thank you. I'm really glad to be here today. My name is Allie Jones, and I'm the Director of Homeownership Services at the Southwest Minnesota Housing Partnership. The Housing Partnership provides housing opportunities throughout Southwest and South Central Minnesota. We provide education, counseling, down payment programs, rehabilitation programs, single-family development, community planning, multifamily development, and supportive services. I've been with the Housing Partnership for 20 years, working in the counseling, education, single-family development, and rehab programs. I like to tell people that if it's about single family, I am a part of it. We are a HUD certified counseling agency. And the reason why I enjoy this work is, I worked for a for-profit before coming to the Housing Partnership. And when I came here, I had no idea what we did. However, I will never forget the first home that I sold. I do this because I love watching the keys being handed to a new homeowner, the emotions of the family, the kids fighting for a certain bedroom, the crying and the hugs as they walk off and go to their first home. So I also enjoy working with people to help save their home, teaching people that are new to this country on how to use power tools, patching holes, fair housing, and cleaning the gutters, and really what it takes to live in Minnesota. So that is what makes me want to come to work every day.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Allie. The USDA 502 program and partnerships in Greater Minnesota are critical to advancing affordable homeownership around the state. Glad you're here, Allie. Now I would like to welcome Mayor Emily Larson from the city of Duluth. Mayor Emily.
Yes, hi, everybody. Thank you, Emma. My name is Emily. I'm mayor of Duluth, Minnesota, and happy Habitat Day, happy Home Security Day, happy let's get everybody housed and secure and safe day in the state of Minnesota. I am very passionate about housing. I have been for my entire career. I've been elected for 10 years, but for the past probably 25 years, I've done work in housing. So my previous career was in social work, and I did work providing services to people who are living with homelessness, experiencing home insecurity, or in transition of housing security. So that was the passion of my work. I've served on many boards along the way. And as mayor, served on the governor's task force for housing, actually with Senator Draheim, who we heard from earlier. That was the Governor Dayton appointed commission, statewide commission, and then instituted our own City of Duluth task force to address affordability in housing. So I am here for this discussion because I'm very passionate about ensuring that everybody, every family, every senior, every kid have a place to go home to at night. Ideally, that is a place that can help build equity as well. And so I carry that passion for home ownership along with rental and affordability. And finally, just want to thank Habitat. You're an amazing organization, and we really proud that we have actually recommitted to Habitat here in the city of Duluth. We have incredible partners here, and it had been years for lots of different reasons in the gap of our having Habitat come to fruition. And I'm happy to see that it's been re-energized, not because we lacked the interest, but because I think the relationship maybe wasn't there with the city, and the city could have done more. So I'm happy to be here today, and thank you for having me.
Working at a state level, I know how important the public-private partnerships are in advancing this work. So thank you so much for joining us, Mayor Emily. And last but not least, let's have Marisa Sosita introduce herself. Marisa.
Hello, thank you so much, Emma. I am the executive director of the Red River Valley Habitat for Humanity that serves Polk County, Minnesota, and Grand Forks County, North Dakota. I've been in this position for 2 years. I don't know that my organization needs much of an introduction, but we are a well-known international non-governmental organization that builds affordable homes for low and moderate income households internationally, with the idea that homeownership is a pathway to wealth, economic opportunity, and the ability to break the cycle of poverty. And so that's really why I got interested in this work. I'm particularly interested in breaking the cycle of poverty. I think that homeownership is a great way to do that. I even did my master's paper on the topic of the effects of stable, safe, affordable housing, or lack thereof, on a household's wealth, health, and educational attainment. And I'm currently in my first year of law school studying property and human rights law. So I'm really excited to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Marisa, for your work within the Habitat Network. And thank you for all the panelists for joining us today for this important discussion. So let's dive in to these questions. Our panel today is focused on how affordable homeownership is the cornerstone to economic stability. And we are aiming to highlight how this is demonstrated around our great state of Minnesota. I'm going to start with you, Mayor Emily. Perhaps you could start us off by sharing a bit about what you see in Duluth and why the city is utilizing some of its COVID response resources to invest in affordable housing. How does that affordable ownership fit into meeting affordable housing needs for your representative, from your perspective?
Thank you for the question. And there's a lot going on in the question, actually. You know, here in Duluth, housing is really an issue on many, many levels. We are a land dense city. You know, we have an extremely large number of parks and creeks and undevelopable land. We're a bit landlocked in a beautiful way by Lake Superior. Development can be a little more difficult here for some of those reasons. And our population in general, we have about 36,000 households. We have 86,000 residents in about 36,000 households. About 55% of those households are renters, are homeowners. About 45% are renters. And so we have a need to advance affordability in both categories. We did receive $57 million in COVID support funding and relief funding. We are using 19 million of it. So more than a third of it, we are applying to housing and affordability. We anticipate that kind of going into 4 different areas, from emergency shelter to long-term sustaining, home ownership and housing. I don't actually think we're going to be funding as much home ownership through that, but the money we'll be using to do the rental subsidy and the payments to support rental housing actually frees up other categories that we have to then partner with the land trust, One Roof, and other really important sustaining home ownership models. So we're using that money to help kind of spread further investment here and free up money over there. We're seeing a tremendous need as it relates to housing. And we have always seen this in the city of Duluth, but we are finding that more people are homeless now than have been in the past. We are finding that when we have a warming center open, and it should be open again November 1st, the numbers greatly exceed what we anticipated. We are finding the mobility of students in the school district based on the lack of consistent housing options or the lack of affordability as it relates to that transition from rental to home ownership is really impacting kids' academic performance and socioeconomic connections that are really important for them. For us, housing, I have always believed that housing is an infrastructure issue in the very same way we talk about streets, and mayors have to talk about streets a lot, and we talk about budgets a lot. For me, the role of a city is to help ensure that people have a foundation upon which they can build their lives. And ideally, we're just providing our services in a very non-dramatic way so that you can drive the streets and use the sidewalks and trust your water and get your library books. And I actually really believe that housing is exactly one of those foundational elements. You actually cannot go about the rest of your day and your life if you don't feel that you have a safe place to come home to. And so that applies to people across, home ownership and rental, townhomes, seniors, people who need support services. So for us, it is an all hands on deck strategy. And even though I do feel like some days I have a lot of information about housing, it's always a little awkward to talk to, housing professionals who y'all know way, way, way more than I do on the details. Housing has been fundamentally the most difficult issue for me to work towards tackling and addressing as a mayor. It is just such a big issue. It's a math issue. Somebody needs to subsidize housing so that people can afford to purchase or own. Somebody needs to subsidize the land or the cost of construction and materials. So what we've been doing, and then I'll wrap up, is really using all the policies that we can. We do have about 45 units of tiny homes in our development space up here. Those have been delayed. We were hoping they would all be done by now, but the cost of materials with the pandemic has, of course, added, as I'm sure Habitat can appreciate. We have been using a new program that actually we created called Rebuild Duluth, where we worked with the county to use tax forfeit properties and previously demolished sites, and we put them out for bid and actually said to developers and whoever was interested, if you can turn this site into a home, you can have it, and we will help you do that. So we have 18 new properties coming online that are designed for affordable home ownership, and we're really excited about that. Some of them will have maybe a rental unit in it, along with the ownership capacity to help that happen. And then we're also working with HRA and doing and the county to do 18 cottage homes. So we're using every lever that we can. Policy is a really important way to do that. Math is a real issue. Money is the math. And so I'm here to learn more from all of you too on what I can do to meet the needs that your organizations have to build your own capacity.
Well, thank you so much, Mayor Emily, for that comprehensive answer. And I will go ahead and turn around and ask Stephanie now the next question. We know that affordable housing is critical to a thriving local economy because it attracts strong workforce and supports retention of great employees. Without stable and affordable housing, local economies are at a great risk. So Stephanie, how Otter Tail Power Company, we know that Otter Tail Power Company is a strong partner with the Fergus Fall Habitat for Humanity affiliate. Could you share a little bit about why that partnership is so important? And I will add a second part to it. Hopefully you can, combine them or decide to detach them. How does affordable homeownership impact Otter Tail Power Company's workforce and its work?
Yeah, well, thank you. There's so much that we can cover here, right? But I'll do my best to continue to share the stage with the rest of the panelists. But I will mirror Mayor Emily's comments about how certainly the panelists on this call are going to know a lot more about the specifics behind affordable housing than I am. But what I can tell you is that our company provides an essential service. Okay, so we're a power company, and what can we even do anymore today without power, right? It literally is what fuels our lives. And so we see our essential service as being core to the viability, health, and vitality and growth of the communities that we serve. But of course, without people, those communities don't even need power, right? And how do we get the people? Well, we need to have workforce opportunities. We need to have education systems, and we need to have affordable housing. We just do. And I would say that our rural demographic, we serve 422 communities in 70,000 square miles. So if you just kind of map that out in your head, we look a little bit different out here than the metropolitan Twin Cities of Minneapolis, St. Paul, right? So we do look a little different, and that means that our communities are starting to look a little bit different. And to be able to attract the families to the jobs that are in our area, and to be able to attract families with young people who they're looking to put through school systems, we need to ensure that, again, that these families looking out for the best interests of their futures have the housing resources that they need. So that is something that we can see clearly as we look to develop the region where we provide our service, and to just meet the community needs throughout our service area. Now, the other piece of it that I think is, it gets to be sort of truer to the heart, if you will, is this notion of community support and community engagement. And I hope you don't mind me just giving this little bit of a personal shout out, but the Habitat for Humanity leadership here in Fergus Falls. So the second, I swear, it was like they were sitting on pins and needles, you guys, the second the flyer came out saying who was going to be serving as panelists for today's discussion, I got a beautiful email from one of the Habitat board members. I got a call from the director of our local office. And so man, I mean, what an amazing crew of humans you all are, and right down to the local level. And that's where our hearts at Otter Tail Power Company live, is being able to connect with those local leaders, for them to know our names and for us to know their names, and to be able to say, hey, we've got to build. Of course, when I say we, I mean you all, right? If Habitat has a build in our community, it's remarkable. That's not me, but the way that we talk about it at our company is, hey, we've got to build. Fergus Falls has an opportunity. Habitat has reached out. Who wants to be involved? And I mean, we have to do sort of this first come, first served basis, because everybody has this passion for the Habitat mission and the work that this organization does. And so I'm here today to speak on behalf of your corporate partners, your community advocates and allies, as an essential service provider, to say we couldn't do without you. And we appreciate the opportunity to be a partner in all of the amazing, amazing work that you're doing. So that's kind of a high level answer to your question, but I hope I touched on both aspects for you.
Wow, talk about partnership, that beautiful symbiosis that you exudes, and you tend to support one another. It's a beautiful thing to see, and knowing that you're doing a great service. I mean, everybody who lives in this era right now knows that you can't survive without the power, and how important it becomes in our lives, whether it is a school child or a state worker that is working from home, or a Habitat family. So great to hear from you, Stephanie. I'm going to turn around and reach out to Abdirahim now. Families are striving towards affordable homeownership, and it is out of reach of many. As a housing counseling agency, Abdirahim, could you share a bit about the work that you lead with the African Development Center in the St. Cloud area, and why ADC invests intentionally into affordable homeownership? How do you see this, the homeownership as a cornerstone of economic stability play out in your work, in your day-to-day work? And if you could give us a glimpse also of what would lead more of the household ADC serves to being successful in the St. Cloud and the whole market that you say will serve around that central Minnesota, that would be great.
Thank you, all of you. Thank you, Emma. In ADC, I feel same. We are here to economy, environment, and so helping immigrant families with asset, building and helping them build much as a need, as a zero down payment. I personally went through housing buy process. I buy a house, and I understand the way community are needed. The home ownership is, the low monthly payment, people who are struggling and everything. ADC, we do, we help for the community from bottom line. We build for the community. We train them. We show them, the community understand they can succeed. We do a lot of stuff. I remember the good story I have. A dad who have a couple of kids, and he don't have a credit, and he don't have a down payment assistance, and he don't have the second job. We constantly at the ADC. Finally, that dad have 5 kids. It takes 2 years to buy a house in Greater Minnesota, and that's a Wilmer area, and I manage all that area. I personally understand and all those issues. The community, the most of the community, we help them. They're from 1,000 miles from here. They're from Africa. They don't understand the process in the United States. Then we try to help them to understand and buy a home, first home buyer, and to become a dream of the United States. The ADC is an organization who built for the community, who help for the community, who understand what the community needs for tomorrow. That's why we're here every single day. We see every single day a client was discouraging for the credit, for the income and everything. And the end of the day, when we are constantly day by day, ADC employee, we are all certified for HUD certification. That we train them, we show them, don't give up. You will buy home tomorrow. It's your day. That's why we're here all the time. Then the community, we involve every single day. I work sometimes 6-7 days a week. The reason we are working here in ADC, we're a small organization because we are helping here for the community. We're serving more than hours. We spend time. That's why we here, our community, to become home buyer, to succeed. There's no individual community on board. Does not mean it's being a violence. Be raised inside a home that his and her parent has on higher chance of succeed. That's why we help for the community every single day. And ADC, our community help, we provide trainings, we provide education, we provide counseling, we provide and all the asset we can help for the community. In ADC in Greater Minnesota, we do a lot of great job. I remember when I joined ADC, Emma Kasika, she was my co-worker at that time. And we remember ADC, we are the client from leaving that area, even they don't own one houses in 2015. And now I remember more than 25 people in Greater Minnesota, they buy houses. And the reason that, because people sometimes take time, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years to buy houses. And people have a short time and long time. And all the time we are ready to help them. People, long time, we can stay 2-3 years to buy houses. But we say our community in Greater Minnesota for everybody, and don't give up. It's your day. We'll try to help you. We are here. We see if the people are challenging our lives, income, everything. Then the ADC is a small organization that raising and helping for the community, and we provide what we can every day. And I want to thank all of you guys. I will be here to answer other questions.
Thank you, Abdirahim. Hearing some of the work that you continue to do on a daily basis still brings tears to my eyes to this day. Being from that community, having gone through that journey, I understand exactly. And yes, thank you for sharing. Now I'm going to turn around and see if I can turn this ship around. Allie, Southwest Minnesota Housing Partnership has been partnering with the USDA 502 program to extend affordable homeownership in the rural communities for many years. Based on your experience, what do you see as the greatest opportunity in your service area that could help more families achieve affordable homeownership in the greater Minnesota?
Thanks, Emma. So first, I want to preface this that I am on the South Central Habitat for Humanity Board, and I really encourage, if you have that opportunity to serve, you should do it. It is an amazing, fulfilling job. So today I want to tell you a little bit about USDA Rural Development's 502 Direct Loan Program. Rural Development provides direct loans to purchase or rehabilitate low and very low income persons' homes that live in rural communities, which are communities with populations less than 35,000. So this is not a loan that you're going to use to purchase a farm or become a farmer. It is a loan that you can use to purchase homes within small communities. The loan is a 33-year loan. The rate today is at 2.5%. And if necessary, the buyer can have up to 38-year terms to get more affordability. This loan also provides payment assistance, and that may bring down the interest rates down to like 1%. It allows the applicant to purchase a home with a higher price point. It's going to be in a better condition, and they shouldn't have the large repair bills in the near future. So there's also a rehabilitation loan for health and safety items at 1% interest and a grant for those over 62. So I have been in the entire continuum of affordable single family for sale housing. I've worked with lot development, reviewing plans and specs, preparing cost statements, selling properties, counseling, lending, closing. But when we're creating affordable homeownership opportunities, I feel that it has to be really a well-rounded plan. So everyone looks really hard at creating affordable homes. but sometimes we forget about that home buyer. So when building affordable housing, the go-to is to utilize cheaper materials, smaller footprint, community land trust, write-downs, etc. And obviously now we're seeing all the shortages of materials, contractors, and most new construction. So we don't see this decreasing in the near future. So how do you make affordable housing work? I really like using creative financing. However, just because a household has a lower income does not mean that they should go out and purchase a home that doesn't meet their needs. In fact, it is more important that we look at the sustainability of homeownership, especially with low and very low income households. That is why I really like the rural development loan products. In greater Minnesota, you can find all these fixer-uppers that are less than $50,000. But if a family does not have the money or the expertise, are we really creating sustainable home ownership? So rural development requires that health and safety repairs have to be completed prior to closing. It allows a single mom with an annual income of $46,000 a year to purchase a $225,000 home. So rural development also allows soft seconds, down payment assistance, closing cost assistance, etc. Another great benefit of the 502 direct loan is that you do not have to have credit. They will utilize non-traditional credit to purchase a loan. And we're currently working with Mini Corinne to purchase a home with little to no credit. So no credit can be a huge barrier for those who are new to our country. So this is a wonderful tool to assist them with that. We recently had a Corinne family of 5 purchase a $200,000 home with a monthly payment of $825 a month. And that does include taxes and insurance. Their income was under $40,000 annually. They were previously paying $730 for rent. So for less than $100 a month, they now own their home. Most people utilizing this loan product have very little closing costs. So rural development can do 100% loan to value, which means that some of those closing costs can be put into the loan. Also, if a rural development borrower has problems making their payment, there are several different options to assist them in their time of need. So I also want to touch a little bit on the rural development program is the packaging of rural development loans. So the Housing Partnership is an intermediary for packaging agencies in Minnesota and Wisconsin. I'm going to assume that today it could probably be your first time that you may have heard of this product. Our nonprofit packagers across the state are able to assist homebuyers to apply for the rural development loans. The benefit to the homebuyer is that the package loans get priority in funding and work with their local agencies. The packagers assist the homebuyers in filling out the paperwork, which we all know how much paperwork there is with federal dollars, and making sure that they meet that eligibility criteria. So in doing so, the packagers receive a fee for preparing the package. There are not rural development offices everywhere in the state. So this way of utilizing packagers can really spread the word about their products and programs. And it also does help assist the low and very low income households. So today I'm really just speaking about how rural development financing can work in that 502 direct loan for rural households. But there are other affordable products available in communities throughout the state. So I really encourage you to seek those out and know who has those funds. And it is imperative for you to refer people to those agencies to assist people in purchasing affordable housing. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Allie. It's great just to know that there are some opportunities out there, especially for those who are looking into affordable ownership in the rural communities. It looks like there's great opportunities, and hopefully some of the people who are attending this workshop today, they have an idea of where to start at least. Now, last but not least, I'm going to turn to Marisa. Have you had an opportunity to hear from other panel? Now that you've had an opportunity to hear from other panelists about the work that they're doing and why affordable homeownership matters, as a Habitat for Me and Humanity Executive Director in Northwestern Minnesota, what is a challenge that you face in providing more ownership opportunities in your community? And in the spirit of World Habitat Day, where are you focused on, where we are focused on why this is a community issue we need to be working on together? What are some of the solutions you like community and elected leaders to explore? I know that was a mouthful, and if you want, I can repeat it.
No, I think I got it. Thank you, Emma. That's a great question. So our affiliate in Northwestern Minnesota, Polk County, is very rural. We're a very small operation. And currently we're only building one house per year, but we do have a strategic plan to grow our organization and obtain the ability to build more than one house per year. The biggest challenge in accomplishing this goal quickly is probably the lack of awareness in the surrounding community about the urgency and the extreme negative effects of lack of safe, stable, and affordable housing on not only adults, but especially their children. Our affiliates' push for community involvement heavily relies on advocacy and public awareness campaigns. We have wonderful community support and enough funding and volunteers from the community to accomplish our goals over time. But since housing is so essential to successful households and communities, the adverse effects of lack of housing is something that should be highlighted and at the forefront of policy decisions and community initiatives. I think this has been mentioned before, but everyone in the community benefits when low and moderate income households have access to safe, stable, and affordable housing in terms of future wage and economic growth. And the skills that these households can contribute to community development, they may not be able to if they aren't able to break the poverty cycle. So some of the things that local and state governments can do, Mayor Larson mentioned funding affordable housing projects. And it's easy to say, you know, when we're only building one house a year, some affiliates only build like 4 or 5 per year. It's easy to say, you know, we can get funding from grants or businesses or our individual supporters, but pushing it out on a large scale, a citywide scale, that's where funding becomes a huge issue. And so the thing that I like to say when I'm talking to the community is make sure that you're voting not only for elected officials, but you're also voting on ballot measures. Some of those could allocate money to affordable housing initiatives. Some of them could take money away from affordable housing initiatives. So making sure that our voters pay close attention to where the funding is being allocated, and also the elected officials, how they prioritize affordable housing. There are a lot of important issues, but having housing at the top of their list is essential to making sure that other community goals can be met as well. Specifically because of the economic growth that low-income households can contribute when they are in a safe, stable, and affordable home.
Well, thank you so much, Marisa. I'm sure if there are people out there that are listening, they'll know that even one home in a community per year makes a world of difference, and people have to be engaged in the communities. Vote for the right people that would create the right opportunities and right resources. Thank you again. Now, with those comments and concepts at the front mind, we have a few questions for anybody in the panel. So feel free to answer as you like. And panelists, if you are able to answer the next questions that I'm going to ask, just raise up your electronic hand and leave it open up until you've had a chance to share your answer, and we'll go in that style. So we cannot rely solely on building our way out of this crisis. We must also explore alternative concepts and innovation solution. I'm curious, what unique partnerships are each of you seeing in your areas that are innovative and making strides in racial equity in homeownership or advancing affordable ownership in your communities? I'll start with Mayor Emily.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so I wanted to briefly just touch on, I think some of the really exciting work that's happening to broaden the base of housing ownership, home ownership, and building financial credit that I am seeing really involves tribal communities and tribal nations. We have Fond du Lac, who is an adjacent neighbor here, a sovereign nation just south of us, and we coexist here in the city of Duluth through some different properties. We certainly seek to leverage the support and investment that they're making in members who live in the city of Duluth. And so that's an interesting opportunity for us to align our values and to work towards the greatest good as two governments working together. But I would also say that I actually think some of the most important work that I can be doing as mayor is really in the policy arena. So are there things that we can do to either move some, red tape out of the way? One of the biggest things that I have found, like as a role of government, is, get really smart people who are way smarter than you are at their areas of expertise and just move out of the way. So we actually created a brand new position at the city of Duluth that is co-funded through the HRA, and it is focused solely on housing development. We have seen hundreds of units come online just in the last month. Actually, 100 rental units affordable came online, and that's really incredible to see. But then also leading through some of the policy examples, whether that is about changing our unified development code to align with different structures coexisting, making accessory dwelling units possible, incentivizing the creation of affordable home ownership through the rebuild program that I talked about, or tiny homes. There are so many things that you can do. You can't make money just appear out of nowhere, but you can work with the variables that you have. And as a mayor, what I have are policies, land, staff, and money. And I don't have enough of any of those things, but every once in a while you can package them together in just the right way. When it comes to equity, the city of Duluth is working really hard to lead with our values, that we show up in ways that are important for people on their terms and not on ours. So that means that we are working in communities. We go to community centers, we go to spaces and places that people feel comfortable, valued, and supported, and ask some of those core questions of how we can show up for them, whether that's in relation to housing or other things that the city does. And we have found that those relationships are really key to us advancing, whether it's getting people to trust government as it relates to vaccinations or the census, these other things that all are about how we raise all of our votes. We're working really hard on relationship building as a strategy to show up with values of equity and inclusion.
Thank you so much, Mayor Emily. It looks like together you'll go far. So great to hear. Let me turn to Marisa.
Yes, so in my community, we have a nonprofit called the Global Friends Coalition. And in my community specifically, we have a large number of immigrants from Northern African countries. And as Abdi Ibrahim was saying in his question response, there are a lot of immigrants that don't understand the American housing market. They don't know how it works. It's a lot different. There's a lot more things that go into it. And since there can be a language barrier, they're partnering with the Global Friends Coalition, who works with the immigrant population to acclimate them to their new American community. It is essential for us in making sure that they have safe and affordable housing. And this is a fairly new partnership that I started when I came on board with my Habitat affiliate. So we're still growing, but we've already worked with a family from Somalia and a family from Ethiopia. And there was a barrier there, not only with language, but with how they understood how the housing market worked and the experience that they had before coming to work with Habitat. And so having that partnership, I think, is great for advancing the opportunities for immigrants to integrate into their community and learn the investment opportunities and the wealth building opportunities that they have through the homeownership market.
Thank you so much, Marisa. It looks like we're building on a theme of partnerships here in all sorts of different ways, and I'm loving it. Allie, same question, over to you.
Yeah, so obviously we cover a very large area, and we can't do it by ourselves. we don't have the manpower, we don't have the funding, and we don't have the expertise in every community. So we've learned along the way that, first of all, if you build it, they may not come. Just because you build a house doesn't mean somebody's going to be in that house. We've held on to houses for a while. So unless you get in deep into that community, you are not going to know what that actual need is. And we've learned so much. We found out that some people do not want an open concept because they don't want people to see into their kitchen. We work with, we had a great partnership when there was still the Korean organization in Minnesota. They had someone in Marshall that we were working with. And we were teaching not anything about home ownership. We were talking to people about how to dress their children in winter, what those needs may be, and really digging in and finding out what that is. And you might not be the right person to fix that problem. However, because of the people that you know and the people that you can refer to, it really works to get people the things that they need and want. And then eventually, you know what, it's taken us 5 years since we started doing some banking classes and things like that. But right now we're up to like 15 different Korean families purchasing a home within that community. So it's not, there's nothing short term that you can do. I mean, I could build 100 houses if I needed to build 100 houses, but that's not the answer. You need that full entire community coming together and building it.
Thank you, Allie. I heard a couple of things going on there. Lots of trust so that you can create that stronger bond in a partnership, and a little bit of a platinum rule there. Do what they want, not how you want it. So not just a simple partnership, but a partnership that goes farther and deeper into the roots of a community, as well as understanding the other side, so that in the end, everybody has a win-win situation. Now, let me ask another question and see who would like to respond. Those are oftentimes in the development of affordable housing of any kind, advocates are often met with not in my backyard attitude, making it difficult to advance an effort. What is a common affordable homeownership myth that you would like to bust today? And what do you wish the general public and our local elected officials understood about affordable homeownership? Mayor Emily, I'm going to put you on the spot.
I love it. That's great. Well, I don't know if this is the group that needs any myth busting from me anyway. You know, I think people presume a lot who don't have empathy and sympathy for even just remembering the hardship that we've all encountered, whether it is, you know, learning on the way, struggling with economic insecurity, social supports, racial discrimination and housing discrimination and bias. I mean, there are so many reasons why people can benefit from the boost of affordability as it relates to home ownership and credit building. So to me, excuse me, just going to close that notification that came in. There aren't really big myths for this group that need to be debunked. But one of the things that I like to talk about when people really are doing that NIMBY thing, and there is nothing that flares people up more, in my opinion, than their kids or land use. And so when you're talking about land, it's a very complicated discussion. Who owns the land? Who gets to give rights to the land? The history of our land, the inhabitation of our land for centuries. This land in this neighborhood may be developable, but my kids have been using it as a park for 10 years. And what do you mean you're going to turn that into something? There's a lot of reasons for NIMBY. And in my experience, really talking to people about values is what changes it. Really telling a story about why every neighborhood should be one of choice and opportunity really changes it. Listening to why that, you know, group, neighborhood, neighbor chose to move into that neighborhood. Why is it that they're living there? That's exactly the experience other families deserve to have as well. And, nothing raises property taxes or, raises property valuations more than making sure that people are safe and neighborhoods are safe. And so I think often people will rely on this very empty worry about, my property value is going down around. And, that's just very empty. I'm not going to have that conversation with somebody. I will talk with them about the values that place them in that neighborhood and why those values are important ones that everybody else can embrace. But I will say nothing. I have seen so many wonderful, good-hearted people be really passionate on why we need to progress as a community. And then when a housing project is slated for their neighborhood, all of a sudden they turn into NIMBY. So the reality is that NIMBY is in all of us in some ways. And so it's important that we check ourselves and we call ourselves out on it. But I think if we lead through that, looking at values, suddenly you start realizing, if it's good for my kids, my niece, my nephew, my grandkids, my neighbor, whoever it is that's important to you, we all have people who are important to us. We want them to be safe, secure, and supported. Then it's good for all of us. So that's how I have usually viewed that. How we twist from NIMBY to YIMBY is to talk about, yes, why did you choose that neighborhood? So.
Thank you. I've learned a few things today from NIMBY to YIMBY. Listen well, tell the story. The story will raise the value and people would love the neighborhood because that's what is the glue that holds the community. I'm going to pass it to Marisa, the same question. Let's hear wise words from Marisa.
So I have been fortunate enough to not have to deal with a NIMBY neighbor yet in the neighborhoods that my affiliate has built in. And I know that there's some other executive directors listening in on this discussion. So I think you can agree with me that it is something that we have to be prepared for, even if it doesn't happen all that often. And so I am prepared for it if it does come up. And in my research on barriers to affordable housing, a lot of what has come up about hesitancy about having low income or minority households moving into predominantly white and middle high income neighborhoods, I think is because low income households can be seen as lacking wealth because of their laziness or lack of skill to contribute to the overall economy, which just isn't true. And I am lucky enough to come from a financially secure household, and I grew up not having to experience poverty. And so I've seen it on kind of both ends. And my husband did experience poverty when he was growing up. So I've seen it on both ends. And I think a lot of it is poor people are lazy, and that's just not true. So that's one of the myths that at my affiliate, I would like to break if we run into that situation. And also, owner-occupied homes in predominantly impoverished neighborhoods are less likely to increase in value over time, making it a less lucrative investment than purchasing a home in middle-income neighborhoods. So not only is it, we can't just, shove them somewhere else because you don't want them in your neighborhood. This is really an opportunity for them to experience their build on their investment is what I mean to say, because the average return on owner occupied housing over 30 years is about $14,000 to $15,000. But you'll see a lot less of that return in predominantly low income neighborhoods. And as I've said before, it is in everyone's best interest that low and moderate income households have access to affordable home ownership and the opportunity to build wealth and contribute to economic and community initiatives. So that if I have to talk with a neighbor who's a little unhappy about us building in their neighborhood for whatever not in my backyard reasons, that's kind of what I'm prepared to have a discussion with them about, kind of break some of those myths about low income households and just make sure that they understand that they can contribute to the overall economy and make the neighborhood a better place.
Thank you, Marisa. I love some of this information that you're giving out, the busting of some of the misconception out there. Dig deeper, peel the onion. There's always a reason. Listen how people tell their story, and the stories is what will end up gluing us together to find the truth. Allie, same question. Let's hear from you.
Yeah, so we've probably had some of the, we'll say, most vocal fights, usually with city council members, I would say. And I feel like the myth would be is that they feel that they are actually the voice of the people around them, and they're really not. It's really their own personal biases from what we have seen. So when we go into a community, I understand that you probably don't want a 50-unit apartment building built right next to your brand new home. I understand that, I get that. But the other part is when we come, we have to deliver, and we're going to deliver a product that is going to fit within that community. So we're using the partnerships between the community, and then also we were fortunate enough to receive Art Place funding, and we brought a lot of artists into the communities and really asked the people and said, hey, look, we're thinking about doing this. What's something that you would like if we were to put up 50 units of affordable housing? And they're like, well, we want it to look like the rest of the community. Great, we can do something like that. And then really deliver on that. Or we don't want the kids running around in the streets. I understand that. So we put in a park and something for them to keep them from running around and playing in the parking lot or in the streets. So really listening to that community and figuring out what that need is, and then actually come in and make something better than they could have ever expected. And that's how we like to come in with our developments.
Love it. Love that idea. Listening to the community. Partnership means listening and talking. So if both sides are in great communication, there shouldn't be surprises. There shouldn't be emotions charged around and flying around. So thank you so much. Just something that I would like to make sure that the public know about this work before I close and pass it back to Kristen is at the state level. We believe that business development, job creation, and stabilized neighborhoods are all part of economic development. And as our state is working hard to respond and its economic recovering from the COVID-19 pandemic, I firmly believe that it is vital that people in Minnesota are fully vested in their neighborhoods. It starts with that. And affordable ownership is the best way to ensure that people are vested in the community and stay in the community. And that way they all rise together and the economy thrives. Today's discussion has been very insightful. And thank you all panelists for your comments and conversation. I know that there's a lot of folks out there waiting for to share questions for the panel and in the audience. So Kristen, why don't you take it away from here?
Well, thanks, Emma, for moderating the panel discussion. And thanks, panelists. This is really wonderful. We have some really great catchphrases I look forward to sharing with others. And I hope that you each had an opportunity to learn from one another as well. We're really thankful for your time. And as audience members begin to think about some questions you might have for our panelists to further the discussion, I wanted to take a quick moment to express our appreciation and to say, for all the reasons highlighted today, we're working every day to advance affordable ownership in our state. As a recent Urban Institute study stated, affordable homeownership is not the capstone, it's the cornerstone of economic and family stability in our nation. And that infographic you saw earlier as we launched into today's panel is inspired by that study. And we really do believe that every household deserves a safe, stable place to call home. And today is World Habitat Day, and it's all about coming together to highlight the importance of this work and bringing our community together to do the work. And Habitat Minnesota is honored to partner with all of you attending today, all of you participating, and the 25 Habitat affiliates around the state in pursuit of this mission. If you'd like to join us in this work, please consider making a donation to Habitat for Humanity of Minnesota. And to do so, simply visit the website on the slide or in the chat. Your gift today will support our work at Habitat Minnesota in advancing the goal of closing the racial gap in ownership and creating more wealth building opportunities through ownership throughout the state. So with that, we have 2 questions so far. So the first one for the panelists are, maybe you could each talk a little bit about the role community land trusts might play either in your communities or where your home buyers, Abdirahim, might be buying. So are any of you partnering with or collaborating with community land trust or land trust models to promote and build affordable housing? Go ahead.
I would love to speak to that if I could. Thank you for the question. I love our land trust. So we, my relationship with the land trust goes back a couple decades, and we work really closely with them. We are very proud of the land trust model here in the city of Duluth, and our land trust is part of an organization called One Roof, which has kind of bridged 2 different organizations together. People on this call would certainly know and understand Jeff Corey's leadership and work across the country to support the land trust model. So yes, we are really strong supporters of land trust. I love how that math works. I love that there's a component of equity. There's also a component of taking down that sticker shock, and then the relationship building and the learning that goes around how to be a homeowner. What does that mean? What's your responsibility? And then how do you use that as a way to expand community? Huge land trust supporter. And so thank you for the question. We work really closely with them. And then our land trust here One Roof, which is the organization, also does other kinds of development. And so it's really exciting to see some of these organizations expand to meet their greater mission and to meet the bigger need that's out there, and or to find projects that can then financially go back to support the core mission, right? So there's a lot of interesting math everybody has to do to make the numbers work, but I cannot say enough about land trust. So if you are working, for instance, on this call, if you are working in a community where you could benefit from the land trust community land trust model, I'm happy to talk to your elected community leader about how it's been a benefit here and what we do to support that through our CDBG funding, through, speaking on behalf, supporting tax credit projects, prioritizing them when we're doing some of this HUD Section 3 advocacy, things like that. So thank you.
Thanks, Mayor Emily. And I'm loving your connection to math. As someone who studied math in college, I'm just loving the connections. In case any of you thought to yourself in middle school, why do I have to learn math? Here's why. It's necessary for everything that we do on a daily basis. So thanks for the reference there. Allie, what would you like to talk about your land trust partnerships?
I run our community land trust. The Housing Partnership does have a community land trust. It started back in 2006, and I am on the Minnesota Land Trust Coalition. It was a long story that would take too long for me to tell you how we became a land trust. However, we do have 28 units, rental units on a land trust, and then we have 4 single-family homes. Our land trust stalled significantly. I live in greater Minnesota. Land is relatively cheap compared to, Minneapolis. So we could get lots for $9,000, $10,000. Now the whole land trust model is based out of taking the land out of the transaction. So, a deduction of $9,000 or $10,000, we had a really tough time selling that to people for the land trust. So we are now, almost 20 years later, realizing that, okay, there's not a lot of developed land or lots, especially in smaller communities across our area. The cost for infrastructure has gone up significantly. So we're starting to reanalyze and relook at that, especially we do have an office in Mankato. So there is a group there that is looking at either starting a land trust or either working with our land trust to start putting some land trust homes together. It's a little bit harder to sell, but I think once you get it working and running and people understand it, that it's still their home, it's still their land, they can put a garden on it, they can do most everything that they want to do on it. And then, and it can work, and it can really be a really good affordable option for people. And I feel like if you integrate it within the community, not have just, oh, here's our land trust community over here. If you can keep that integrated and throughout the community, I think it can really be a really positive idea to make affordable housing.
Great, thanks, Allie. Did anyone else want to respond to the question about partnership with community land trusts? Otherwise, I'll move on to question 2. Okay, so question 2, the question is, during the COVID pandemic, are Habitat families having difficulty paying their mortgages? And if so, is there payment assistance for those needing help? And maybe I'll expand the question to include all the panelists. What are you seeing in your community is about, as you think about the impact of the pandemic on family household stability, and what are your communities doing, or how are you thinking about responding to keep people stabilized in their homes? Because it's impacted everybody in different ways. So as you think about that question, and maybe I'll start with Marissa, as you're talking with homeowner families, how is the pandemic impacting them, and how are you supporting them through this season?
So luckily enough for our affiliate, we didn't have too many families at the beginning of the pandemic. I did send out a general notice to all of our families, please let us know if you are having trouble making your mortgage payments. And we only had one family that actually reached out and said that they were having trouble making their payments, but we were able to work with them, offering a forbearance plan just for 3 months at a time. They got those 3 months where they could catch up, figure out what they were going to do, maybe save some money, something like that. But then after those 3 months, they ended up being fine. And I would like to note that nationally, I think just last week, nationally, it was reported that poverty was actually reduced last year because of the unemployment assistance and the stimulus payments that were given out last year. So I think that had a big thing to do in my community, especially with the lack of ability to afford a mortgage during the pandemic. And also, our mortgages in my community, since we are so rural, are pretty affordable. So I would be more interested maybe to hear about some of the affordability effects in the larger cities. Maybe Mayor Larson could touch on that, or even you, Kristen. But yeah, in the rural communities, we didn't have too much of a problem, and I'm really happy to say, maybe it's because our work helped our families get on track financially and plan for these adverse situations. But overall, it hasn't been too bad of an experience up here. So,
thanks, Marissa. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I will just say that, what we have found, I don't have the exact data from like the land trust model, which is one we just spoke of, but I do recall from the last kind of foreclosure crisis time period in American history, maybe within the last 10, 12 years, the foreclosure rate with land trust homeowners was like zero, almost literally zero, when the rest of the foreclosure bubble was just expanding exponentially. I think some of that is based on the smart planning and growth that goes into being a land trust homeowner and the intention behind that. So I just wanted to make that comment. What we're seeing here is a lot of delinquency as it relates to payments that people need to be making to stay in their homes or in their apartments. And some of that is based on, money needing to go other places. Some of that was based on the eviction moratorium. Some of that is just based on people being really stressed out during an unprecedented time and struggling to kind of file everything away and get it all right. We've all gotten something wrong in the last 18 months. And for some people, it could be their rent or their mortgage. What we're really working hard to do, and again, this goes back to some of the relationship building that we've worked on through projects like the census and vaccination, is to make sure that, sorry, that was my battery letting me know I need to be done in the next half hour. But just making sure that people know the resources that are out there. We are finding that people are underutilizing some of the emergency supports that the state has made available. As a city, we are also a utility company. We have 2 different utilities that the city of Duluth runs. These are not You know, we don't have any financial benefit from this, just it's money in, money out to provide the utility that people need. There is no shared earnings or anything like that. Anyway, we had millions of dollars in bills that are delinquent, and that's difficult for us to absorb because we don't have any profit margin to take that out of. So just making sure that we were really intentional about getting out to communities, doing drive-by resource fairs, you know, in public parking lots, going into school buildings at the beginning of the school year, getting information to neighborhood clubs to make sure that people were getting the emergency assistance that was available to them. And there's still millions of dollars out there for people to get. And so I think that is one of the things we can do as leaders on this call, is to make sure that we are demonstrating the true financial need that people have been experiencing across the state of Minnesota by making sure that they get every single penny they are eligible for to help meet those, you know, past due rent, mortgage, insurance, utility bills that are out there.
That's great. And it looks like Stephanie wants to chime in on that. Go ahead, Stephanie.
Yeah, and I would just, you know, say one of the beautiful things about community partnership is when we can make them ongoing relationships, right? And then we never know when an emergent situation is going to present itself. And man, are we thankful we've got those partnerships in place at those times. And so no one could have predicted COVID, but we have things like community action partnerships, community action councils, you know, sort of all sorts of resources that we have available to us as nonprofit organizations, and then that, you know, corporations who provide essential services are aware of and partner with on an ongoing basis. For example, in our case, to just make sure that homeowners can, you know, pay their utility bills, and are they in positions of needing assistance in doing so. And so I just want to echo, I heard Mayor Emily say the word partnership, and I just, you know, want to echo that to say absolutely in times of crisis, absolutely in these emergency situations, for sure, but it's the ongoing partnership, right? And maintaining those connections and continuing to work together when times are good, when times are rough, that's what really firms up those bonds. And I think it brings us together faster and more productively in cases like the pandemic, which Kristen, you mentioned earlier as part of the question.
Great, thank you for your comments on that. We have a couple of lawmakers participating in the call today, and this question came from one of them, which is, what state policies could be changed to make it easier and or cheaper to produce housing at low and moderate affordable income levels?
Can I jump in with that one? I'm sorry. I feel like I'm just being more aggressive than necessary, but I would love to hear and have a discussion with this person. I think the state building code, I know there are international standards and national standards that need to be implemented in the state building code, but I do think it's time to have a review of that, actually. And then the other element is there are a lot of organizations that do funding for affordability, right? As we talk about a math problem, somebody has to financially fill that math gap. And there are many funders that have a series of different requirements that can sometimes actually add to the cost. I wouldn't say that this is predominant, but it's frustrating and difficult enough. So for instance, there may be a requirement on a number of bathrooms with a number of bedrooms. That's a funder requirement, and it can actually add some cost. And so I've been thinking a lot about how when you're a nonprofit organization and you're applying for grants, many places accept the Minnesota Common Grant application. Right. And that's intended to make it easier for nonprofits to kind of sort the information, and it kind of, has a template for the information you need to provide to funders. Is there a way to do that with housing organizations too? Is there a way to have a common application, and whether that's home ownership or, duplex or rental or, owner occupied rental, any of these formulas, some consistency around the requirements that each of the funders have when they're meeting the requirements from their funders, right? So it's not always, just simply making a choice and making it easier. But from the state perspective, I would certainly, I would encourage a review of the state building code.
Thanks, Mayor Emily. Allie?
So I totally agree with Mayor Larson on that. There are a lot of rules and regs that get put into many of our properties that just increase the cost significantly, especially when we compare it. We are a NeighborWorks organization, which is a national intermediary, and I compare to a similar home or a bigger home built in Texas compared to Minnesota. It's hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars difference. Now, granted, two very separate states. But I also feel like, and when there are funding rounds and opportunities, it is usually annually. And if you have something that just maybe pops up, or maybe something you want to just kind of try or test out, you only have that one time to apply for those type of funding sources. And then it takes almost a year before that funding becomes available. A year can change significantly. We all found that out in March of 2020, how all of a sudden the entire world stopped and things changed. So some type of, if there was a way that we could utilize funds or have funding opportunities available at different times of the year. The other thing is, so I'm in Greater Minnesota, and we have a massive contractor shortage. So not just, the general contractor, electricians, plumbers. I can't find people to bid on our projects because they are full for 1 to 2 years. I would love to see a program. And again, I live in very Southwest Minnesota, so I only get South Dakota news. But something that they did in South Dakota was, if you went to a 2-year school, got a degree in whatever that would be, the state of South Dakota paid for that degree as long as you worked in South Dakota for 3 years. If we could get something that we could do that and increase those electricians, those plumbers, the people that we need working to build these properties, it could help significantly, because I just can't find, even personally, I can't find a contractor, and I'm willing to pay a lot more than maybe a nonprofit can to build a house. So we need to work on that infrastructure, the people out there being able to help and build these properties.
Thanks, Allie. Marissa?
I guess I'm just kind of piggybacking off of Allie and Mayor Larson. Think about how you can encourage local governments with state policies to maybe make zoning laws a little more affordable housing friendly. How can you encourage builders to discount or donate their services to charities, whether that's a tax deduction like the low-income housing tax credits that the federal government gives out. Maybe you could do something like that on a state level. And then I just thought of something when Allie was talking about the lack of contractors and giving potential contractors an incentive to obtain those training skills. Anything that you can do to reduce the student loan burden on younger generations as well. That's a huge reason why people my age, I'm 26, it's a huge reason why people my age are putting off home ownership until they're in their 30s or even 40s, unfortunately. And I know that it doesn't seem like student debt would correlate with lack of home ownership, but it definitely does. Speaking from experience, I help other people get homes, but I don't own my own home because I have a high debt burden. So those are some kind of things to think about, but I think a lot of it is putting regulations in place that encourage local governments to make more affordable housing, construction friendly laws and building codes and things like that.
Well, great. Thank you for your responses to those wonderful audience questions. I have one final question for all of our panelists today, and that is, what is one thing each of us can do to support more affordable ownership in our communities? And how about if we start with Abdiraheen? Would you like to share with us one thing you think each of us could do to support more affordable ownership in our communities?
Yeah, thank you, Christine. One thing I know, Habitat Humanity does good job of the community all the time, and thank you so much for helping for the community. I think the community in Minnesota, the COVID-19 impact a lot of things in Minnesota. They're challenging for everything in this area because of a lot of people lost in income and a lot of people pass away and families struggling. And at this moment right now, the pandemic changed a lot of stuff in the world, and it's a tough time, and everybody we know that. I think the community, we just have to understand what they're struggling, and if your organization cannot do it, then we can refer to other organizations. And I think as ADC, I'm speaking on behalf of ADC. We help ready to help for the community all the time for this time and for home affordability. It's we have to understand. Then right now, a lot of people are challenging for that housing. I think maybe we can put together all of us, not only one part. And we have to understand what can we do for the community.
Great, thanks. Working together and understanding the issue is really important as we think about how we tackle this complex challenge together. So thanks, Abdiraheen. Marissa, would you like to share with us one thing?
I don't know if I can share just one thing. I think there are a lot of things that people can do, but if I was going to choose just one, advocacy, I think, is my favorite part. Disseminating knowledge, getting that information out there. The more I learn about the need for affordable housing, the more compelled I feel, the more urgency I feel to build more affordable houses and expand my community's Habitat for Humanity program. So I think that just having a discussion with people, it can be informal. You don't have to be an expert. I am by no means an expert just because I'm a panelist, but I still like having these discussions with people in my life. There is this need for affordable housing. There are people who are missing out on great opportunities because they don't have their basic needs met, such as housing. So having that discussion, just raising awareness, and then maybe figuring out what you can do individually in your community. If it's volunteering at a Habitat, if it's donating, if it's maybe starting a grassroots organization of your own, or running for city council, something like that. Just start with that discussion, and then I think you can take it from there.
Great, thanks, Marissa. There are many things, which is wonderful. So Stephanie, which one thing would you encourage people to do?
I would encourage all of us to remember who we're talking to and to understand who we're talking to. Because while our message, those of us on the call today, while the message might be the same, the goal is the same. Different audiences will hear you differently. And some are going to really resonate with the facts and the figures and the math. I'm looking around my screen for everybody who's commented on the math, but some people, that's going to really resonate with them. For others, they're really going to resonate with this notion of scarcity and abundance, and that really there is enough for everybody, right? That just because somebody else has an opportunity to grow in their life doesn't mean that you have less. So there's just education around perception. And so the communicator in me is just hopeful that we can all take the time to sort of customize our messaging just a little bit to our audiences, help reach them where they are, help find them where they are, and when they're there, meet them in their own space and be comfortable and confident doing that, and then connect with them on something that just really drives the message home for them.
Wonderful. I love the thought about how we move from a scarcity mindset to one of abundance, and really appreciate that hope-filled message, Stephanie. Thank you. Mayor Larson, what's one thing you think we should do?
Thank you, first of all, for this opportunity and for convening these great speakers and thought leaders together. It's been really exciting to be here today. Well, I think two things. One is tell the story, ground the facts and ground the need in an actual story. I can't argue with your story. I can find alternative, views, and I can find different numbers to support whatever my worldview is, but I can't argue with your story. And so put a story on the forefront of how we're communicating around affordability. And again, ground that in the values. If it's good for your family and the people you care about, then why would you not want that for somebody else? It's good for them too. So, that's my first thought. And then I think, the second one is just to remember that there's policy behind you. There's a chorus of opportunities in the policies, and don't overlook that there are a lot of things that government layers can do, big and small, to either remove roadblocks or put them up. And don't be shy about naming that and calling it out. I often tell advocates who want me to do more. I do a ton on housing, and I get pushed all the time to do a lot more. And I thank them. That is their job. Their job is to keep pushing. And my job is to keep being open to the possibility that maybe we can go further in an area. And so, don't be shy. An ally is somebody that you are meant to grow with and push, as well as appreciate. And a good ally will recognize that your job as an advocate is to do both.
Great, thank you. Allie?
I feel it's not fair that I'm last, because my first was get involved. Second was find your voice and use it. So now I have to go to the third one and say, what, meet your neighbor, find out who's living with you, around you, and find the people and learn from them and really understand where they have come from and what you can do to help in any way. So really know the people who are around you, because I think we're building way too many fences, and literally and figuratively. So really find the people around you and learn from them.
That's great. Thank you, Allie. And I was going to ask Emma if she'd like to share with us an action item that she might have for everyone too. So you weren't quite last, but I loved your meet your neighbor suggestion and action item. Emma, what's one thing that you'd like to encourage folks to do today?
One of the things that I've heard quite a bit today in the conversation, and I think it's something that I take with me every single day when I go to do the government work, is to stop and pause and look around to what else needs to be done. Because most of the time, especially when you have a group of leaders who are all passionate about what they love to do and they want to solve, whenever they hear there's an issue they want to solve. And yes, there will be time to jump into that solve mode and find a solution for all the problems that we have in the world. But some of the problems we cannot just jump into the solve. We have to stop, pause, listen. And some of that listening, it includes building trust and all that stuff, and it takes time. So sometimes pausing is not necessarily a bad thing. Letting that time pass by listening is not a bad thing. So especially when you are leaders who are passionate, who want to make a difference and make a change, and I believe all of us want to make a difference and make sure that these communities are grounded in affordable homes and everything else. Maybe it needs to start with that pause so that we can build a trusting relationship in our communities and understand each other better before we can jump into the solve. So that's my our work for today.
Oh, thank you. These are wonderful action items to pause and listen, meet your neighbors, really understand the issue and build relationships and just keep advocating for this work. And so I'm really thankful for each of you for joining us today. And I think we all have some wonderful action steps as we move forward into our week. And I just really love the energy that this panel brings around this is doable work. We can work together to really address this challenge and this opportunity that we have, not just in Minnesota, but around the nation. And I think celebrating World Habitat Day on a Monday and having this like inspiring conversation as we launch into a week where there is much work to do is a really great way. So I just want to thank you all for your time and your comments and insights today and your willingness to share. Thanks, Emma, for being our moderator. Thanks to all of you for your leadership and continued commitment to this work. And I hope, even though we're virtual, you can visualize a standing ovation for all of your remarks today. We have much work to do, and it's great to be doing it with wonderful partners with all of you. So thank you very much for being here. For those of you who are attending today who are interested in doing what Marissa challenged us to do to understand more and learn more about this issue, we'd encourage you to join Twin Cities Habitat for Humanity on Wednesday. They're hosting their 10th annual Hope Builders Luncheon virtually. It's from noon to 1, and the program is going to include an engaging conversation with Stella Whitney West, the CEO of North Point Health and Wellness, and Dr. Taj Mustafa, Chief of Equity Strategy with M Health Fairview on health and housing through an equity lens. And it's sure to be another wonderful opportunity to learn and understand this work even better. If you'd like to sign up for that, it's free to attend. You can visit Twin Cities Habitat website. The website's listed there. It's tchabitat.org to learn more and register today. So that concludes our program today. We thank you again to all of our panelists and our moderator, Emma, and thank you to the Habitat Minnesota staff for all the work that you did to make today a success. And finally, thanks to everyone who joined us today for your time, attention, and commitment to this work. If you'd like to support Habitat Minnesota's efforts, you can contribute at the link in the chat box. And that's it for today. So we wish you all a healthy, safe, and joy-filled week, and hope you're feeling inspired to continue your commitment to this mission work in your own communities. Thanks for everything, and take care, everybody.
Thank you.